So I'll be presenting on Texas and COVID-19. So as of now, Texas has a total confirmed 677,000 cases, and with 14,000 people dead, 578,000 recovered, and daily new cases of 5,271 as of today. And Texas is on track to be number one, which is surprising to a lot of people because Texas was hit quite later on, relatively. So they technically had more time to prepare for it. So how I would summarize the story of Texas's response is like a slow, half-hearted lockdown followed by a fast, reckless reopening. And right now they're in a stage of, and then they roll back into limbo in which they are um, there's a mask mandate, but there's not no real clear action coming from the state government or local authorities, any new action to further dampen the virus's spread. So how did we get here? So I would, as we go through the timeline, if people can keep an eye on these, I think that would give a good a background to what really is happening in the state as these events are happening. So the first case was recorded on March 4th, and on March 13th, as President Trump declared a nationwide emergency, there was the governor of the state, Greg Abbott, declared a statewide public health disaster, which were also coupled with a few regional shutdowns. For example, in North Texas, Sunday service was shut down, and Dallas shut down uh, their schools, bars, etc. So Dallas really went down hard on the lockdown. But on March 19th, Governor Abbott activated the National Guard to assist with coronavirus. Not really clear, but wasn't clear as exactly how they were doing that, and issued a executive order shutting down schools, bars, recommending but not mandating social distancing. He also left the power to issue stay-at-home orders to um, local authorities, which was not, which I guess wasn't really a bad thing at that stage. Um, and he also implemented self-quarantine mandates for incoming travel from the tri-state area. Uh, on March 31st, the governor issued a statewide stay-at-home order, followed by closure of state parks and historic sites 2 weeks later for 13 days. After this, after 2 weeks into lockdown, there was a staggered reopening plan announced, but it did not include a mask mandate. And the mask mandate is going to become, as you guys will see, the one thing that is going to be lacking till the things actually get out of hand. So on April 30th, the statewide stay-at-home order was expired, and the key thing here is that instead of using the almost a month-long lockdown to plan and set up contract tracing and other testing facilities, these things were not really done. Especially contract tracing, which did not start until later on, which would really basically render it useless in the state. From May 1st to May 18th, all kinds of stores would start opening with 25% occupancy, going up to 50% by June 3rd. By mid-June, all restaurants were operating at 75% occupancy without masks. On June 22nd, Governor Abbott gave guidelines encouraging people to follow social distancing, to use hand sanitizers and masks, and delaying reopening of schools for the academic year, which he had said we're going to open just last week. On June 24th, with Texas's test positivity rate at 10%, the tri-state area imposed restrictions on incoming travel from Texas. On July 2nd, with 90,000 active cases and almost 3,000 deaths, the governor finally issued a statewide mask mandate. So in terms of the use of technology, they really did not do very well there. One of the major flaws in their program was that they were reporting tests using fax machines. So first of all, there was a need for manual sorting of all these test reports coming in. Also, they were not full. So even if the contract traces, which are again done manually, sometimes the information about phone numbers would be missing, or information about who that person came in contact would be missing. So it was a real mess. And they recently came up with a web page, almost like you are like the one that the university is using just 2 weeks ago, allowing people to self-report. So in terms of technology, Texas really didn't do much. So as of now, as you can see, the cases are going down, but it's really not looking too great. But I think as long as Texas is keeping the mask mandate, they should be fine. Dr. Fauci did come around and said that at this point, he questioned at this point whether contact tracing is even useful because of how widespread the virus is in the state, and how it's much easier to contact trace while there's a partial or a full lockdown, because you can really pin down who came into contact with whom. So in terms of analysis of what Texas did, what went right, in my opinion, is the mask mandate. Even though it came late, I think it's the only clear decision that was taken that allowed Texas to come down from the peak of 14,000 cases per day, I think it was. Also, federal aid was extended to Texas, which allowed its economy to be much better than it should be. And federal agencies were mainly responsible for setting up testing. What went wrong was, I think the governor was trying really hard, because he's a Republican, to keep in line with the White House rhetoric on masks and social distancing and how bad the virus really is. Also, obviously, the fax machine test reporting system was not really good. And there was an obvious failure to contact trace properly. There was actually a report from the Houston Chronicle saying that even though the state employed thousands of contact tracers, they barely did any work. There was also a failure to learn from the mistakes and successes of early hit states, because Texas was hit pretty late, relatively. It was almost a month before it was hit, right? So they really had an opportunity to get ready for this. Or even if they didn't, but they had these examples, right? Also, the late mask mandate did not really help. Yeah, that's all.
All right, let's clap for Victor. You did a great job. Question.
Yes, I have one question. Do you think that maybe the governor for Texas was a little bit, light with his, you have to do this or you can't do that because of the Texas people? You know how like they are.
Right. I feel like after a certain point in terms of infections and in terms of death, you can really see where the state is headed, especially when you have data from California, from New York and Washington, right? So I think it's the responsibility of a leader to, I guess, make choices that are not that popular for the good of the people. So yeah, I do understand that, and I think he could have imposed a mask mandate while not shutting down the economy, and I think that would have been okay.
I agree with you.
But again, I'm not from Texas, so I don't really know.
You can see someone from Texas being like, "Well, nobody tells me what," and and that completely backfiring. I don't know.
This use of fax machines, oh my god, like Hawaii and Texas. I mean, what's wrong with email? Just take a photo, or I don't know, do PDFs, or
right.
We should have a session on fax machines when we're talking about high-tech solutions.
Who has never used a fax machine here?
Me.
Wow, almost half.
So weird.
Yeah. So on that note, just to add, so John Oliver had a show on like nuclear weapons of the US. You may be surprised. The ICBMs that are capable of destroying the world, they are actually operated by the old floppy disk, like the really old, the big ones. So the computer that runs them, they run on floppy disk.
Which might be a good thing. Like anytime you want to deploy it, you'll figure out that, hey, it doesn't work anymore.